Welcome to the Tea with Mike podcast, recorded live in Edmonton, Alberta. Today's guest is none other than Gary Vaynerchuk, known on social media as Gary V. With thanks to Zach Nadler of VaynerSpeakers, Rock for recording this podcast episode. Everybody at VaynerSpeakers, and lastly to the Tea with Mike community who support the Tea with Mike podcast. And of course, I'd be missing something if I didn't say thank you to today's podcast guest, Gary Vaynerchuk, for fitting me into his busy schedule. It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. Hey Gary, firstly, welcome to Edmonton. It's so surreal to be sitting face to face with you in these times.
Thank you.
And it's also kind of a full circle moment, you know, from
I remember.
Tea with Gary V. And
yes.
We were just jamming it up for that 7 minutes.
Yes.
So, goosebumps right now. But
thank you. It's really good to be with you. Thank you, Mike.
Also your team,
thank you.
All the people that helped set it up. So
thank you.
Let's get cracking.
Let's do it.
This episode of the Tea with Mike.
Tea with Mike.
In just 10 minutes. Okay, so what is your favorite childhood memory and why?
That's a really good question. My favorite childhood memory and why? I am going to go with, I've got several that I'm gonna name them all and then let everybody choose. I bought my sister a Cabbage Patch Kid at Toys R Us on my 10th birthday when she was 7 with my birthday money because I knew Cabbage Patch Kids were incredibly impossible to find, and since it happened to be at Toys R Us, I knew what I had to do, and that was the first time it was very clear to me. Later I realized it because I was only 10, that I was incredibly generous, and it makes me feel happy because it was naturally in me. Number 2, just talked about on Trash Talk. I had a lemonade stand with Marissa Bird, who I just texted on the way here, my childhood friend, and Robbie Turnick, and we were selling lemonade for 10 cents a cup. And a guy on a bike pulled up, had a water bottle, and gave it to me and said, if you can fill this up, I'll give you $10. And it blew my mind, and that $10 felt like $1 million, and I can sit here 38 years later and tell you that story. I also pitched 3 scoreless innings in the All-Star game in 4th grade in baseball, which is a very high watermark moment for me as a kid. And probably when AJ was born, my brother. I was 11, I remember it. My dad woke me up. We never got woke up by my dad. He tried to serve me coffee, we still laugh about it. And he told me my brother had a lot of hair. And my reference point then was Hulk Hogan, so I thought my brother was bald up top and long hair in the back. And so those are the ones that stand out.
Cool, and so during obviously your early days, what did you kind of learn about yourself from kind of running the lemonade stand, for example?
You know, it's funny, I'm not sure I learned it then, but I'm very retrospective in hindsight about everything, and I was such a leader. To who I am now, I was that from the beginning. The neighborhood ran through me. I was the guy who was picking what we were gonna do. So much of why we worked was because I actually wanted to work. It's a beautiful day on July 9th, and I think it's cooler to ring doorbells, slugging a hose, and wash cars for $5. So that's clear. Also, some of the stuff I'm really talking about in the new book, I was incredibly accountable when things went wrong for my sister or my friend, or just always had that gear. And then I think incredibly well documented, I was uncomfortably entrepreneurial. It was always something, and very competitive. Competitive in the entrepreneurship, wanted to do well, and then everything we played, from wiffle ball to Nerf football to basketball to tag to Spud, which was this game we played, I was incredibly competitive and very emotionally charged. What I mean by that is my empathy and my intuition led, actually in hindsight, to a lot of crying. I cried a lot as a kid. My emotions were so big that when I would lose or when I would see somebody get picked on, I remember Michael Gorlick was picking on Eric Godfrey, and I did cry, I cried. I was incredibly emotionally charged. At that young of an age, I didn't have it under control. Today it's my superpower.
That's super cool. So what was the most challenging thing about obviously turning your father's local liquor store into one of the kind of the first e-commerce platforms, and kind of why?
I think, on the skill side, I had them all. I was 22, but I was a 15-year veteran in business, so it wasn't hard, to be very honest. What was hard was the emotional aspects of running a family business. Having a father who saw a lot of things different. My dad Sasha was out of control in hindsight, especially now that I'm his age when I came into the business. He gave me so much freedom. So much of my success is so much more predicated on the long leash that my dad gave, which probably inspires me today in the long leash that I give D-Rock and others. Like I'm not a micromanager. My dad actually gave me a ton of room. He trusted me. I'd already proved myself from 14 to 22 in the business, but we really didn't agree on a lot of things, especially when it came to people. My dad really came from a very negative country called the Soviet Union where everybody stole, and it ingrained in his brain. He was so crippled by the idea of employees stealing, and not just stealing like take the bottle and do this, stealing as in like even 5 minutes hanging outside because I'm paying them. And it was a real challenge for him. So we would, it was hard for me because I was so into being pro culture and he was so not at that, and to his credit, he's evolved, but at the time it was incredibly difficult, and it was a daily, if not weekly fight.
And obviously you have a huge fan base, millions and millions of people, multiple countries around the world. So how does it kind of feel having so much influence on others, and what pressure does that put on you, Gary V, to deliver?
It's a great question. I talk a lot about not hearing the cheering, so I'm not affected by the booing. I normally talk about the booing. I really am grateful for you, Mike, to allow me to talk about the other way. I don't hear it. I don't feel a lot of pressure because I don't think I'm special. I'm not naive. I understand I have stuff, but I don't feel the pressure, and I'm gonna tell you why. I have incredible good intent. Every piece of content I put out, I want it to be more valuable to the audience than it is to me. I believe the biggest reason that people don't grow on social is every piece of content they put out is inherently selfish, with their ambition to grow their following count, monetize the audience, their audience. I believe that for me, I don't feel the pressure because I know that I only talk about what I know. I stay very narrow with my subject matters. I have the humility framework to understand, with all the accolades, with all the screaming and fun that's gonna happen right now, I don't think I'm better than anybody. I think that if tomorrow, God forbid, I'm not on earth, that I get 24 hours on social media and I get my roses, but then we all move on. And I know this because Prince is remarkable, and many other people every week, every month, unfortunately, pass away that have left remarkable marks on our society. You see them take over our Instagrams. We see it for 24 hours. Maybe it lingers for a week because you loved DMX that much. But 3 months later, it's the way the world turns. And so for me, that grounds me in humility. I have no confusion how unspecial I am, while I have the ambition to be the most special of all time. And in that framework comes incredible complacency with ambition.
Cool. And so in terms of core values, obviously you do a lot of things personally, you do a lot of things professionally, all at varying degrees of scale.
Yes.
You, Gary V, at the heart, like what are some core values that you hold near and dear to your heart? Kindness.
I've come to realize how much that has been everything for me. I'm incredibly uncomfortable with the lack of kindness, and I'm actually starting to want to put more pressure on this. I'm really struggling with the justification to not be kind. I don't care that the client gave a lot of pressure to you. Like, I don't care that, you spilled coffee on your pants. Like, I'm struggling to find the justification for lack of kindness. We need to do better. Here's an interesting one. This is what's so great about writing the book. I've come to realize, though I haven't been saying it ever, that curiosity is near and dear to my heart. My curiosity has led to my innovation in hindsight. I'm incredibly curious. I love people. I've always knew that. I'd always say that. I love people. But my what if, or can this be? And then it goes into something else I hold near and dear to my heart. Again, not so obvious through my content, humility. Because I'm curious and humble, I'm willing to waste 20 hours learning something, and I think most people value their time when it's not that valuable. My time's very valuable, on paper, very clear, and I'm still willing to use curiosity and humility, so that would be the answer.
Cool, and obviously I know time's very valuable,
Yep.
so I just gonna close it out with a couple of quick ones.
Go.
So how important is storytelling in the content creation game?
Storytelling's the most important thing in our universe, not the content creation game. The whole world runs on religion, runs on media. It only runs on story.
I love it. And then so finally, because the Tea with Mike community definitely wants to know this, carrying on our conversation from Tea with Gary V, what's your favorite type of tea and why?
Silver needle oolong, because my palate likes it.
Love
Cheers,
it.
man.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It's the Tea with Mike show.